Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we are so happy to have with us here creative actor, director, writer, all of the things you can possibly be that revolve around creating something awesome. Clarke Wolfe with us. We're here to talk about her brand new debut short film. As far as I know, it's your debut. A Shining Example, which is making its premiere here in Austin, Texas at a fantastic fest. Clarke, say hello to everybody.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to talk to you about this.
I am excited to have you here because honestly, before you were making dope shorts, we knew you as somebody who would talk about movies as well. Um, you would be a pundit on many different online places that talk about films, so we know that you know your stuff as far as movies go. What was it like? How different was this to be behind the camera, to write, to be in front of the camera, to do all of the things that I know because I've seen you in the past on these other shows. I know you've wanted to do this for a long time. How does it feel to have the finished product in your hand to show it to people?
Oh, yeah, it's been so great. It's been so great. I'm so proud of the short and of the how it came out. And I like a lot of people who get into sort of who got into the movie talk sort of space back in, about 10 years ago or so. I think we get into this because we love film, we love pop culture, we love entertainment. And I've been, an actor since I was little, starting on stage, and I studied film in college. And so, for me, it was my career sort of went in a direction where the movie talk sort of YouTube space just hit faster. And so, you ride that wave and you make the best of the opportunities that you have. And certainly I wouldn't have met the whole Fantastic Fest team if I hadn't, been a part of that movie talk space. But every set I go on and every time I see, movies and TV getting made, I always want to play. I always want to participate. And anytime storytelling is being done. And so this has been something that I had wanted to do for a long time. And so when the opportunity kind of came up to do it with a budget and to do it with a crew, which is a huge privilege and honor, I absolutely jumped at the chance.
Well, and I can tell you, based on what I'm seeing from your actual shot by shot, the work that you're doing, you're really, really focusing on making stuff that's not only visually or quite visually stunning and arresting, but also super interesting to look at. Because when you look at this short, there's a lot of individual shots that you could pick out that have this really unique spin to them. Can you talk about your process philosophy of shot selection and what you were going with there?
Yeah, oh, for sure. Well, I worked with an incredible DP. His name is Zach Voitis, and this was the first time I had ever met him. And but he was referred to me by one of my producers, Buzz Wallach, and we just really hit it off. And I think for me, as I've seen other directors do as well, there's got to be a shorthand between the director and the DP. And for my producer Buzz and I, we always say that we like to. We need to be able to communicate with our crew and our team by just like using movie references. So we and Zach Voitis speaks movies, and so when I told him, okay, like visually, I want it to be kind of like Hereditary with those warm tones and this and that, and he was like, I know exactly what you're talking about. Or one day on set, we were sort of bumping into a small issue, and he was like, okay, how about we try this and it'll give you that Sam Raimi thing that you like. And I was like, exactly. So I think that having that shorthand in terms of being able to achieve what you're after is super important. But also I think for me, since I do come from an acting background, so much of what we do is visualize and put ourselves in, especially over the last handful of years. When with self tapes and things like that, the amount of focus that actors have had to, be able to cultivate, especially post COVID, during and post COVID, has been really important. And so I think it's just a matter. I think one of the biggest things I learned, and something that I think that I might be, good at, which is, I'll say, is communicating. I think communicating is the one of the most important things to being a director, whether it's to your actors or your crew or anyone else on the set, your costume, anyone who's in charge of the visuals. So I pull a lot of comps, and I send photos and inspiration examples. And so that's sort of where a lot of those choices came from.
I love your answer because I can see that coming out in your work. And quite frankly, like I said, I didn't know what to expect, but I was taken aback by the absolute quality of the work that you put in. So you should really feel proud, and congratulations on this short, because it's really good. And I'm not one to usually go out of my way to check out shorts, but I knew that you were going to bring something to the table, and you did. Um,
Wow, that's a
I'll
huge compliment. Thank you.
of course, of course. Now I have been in Fantastic Fest for quite a few years. I unfortunately was not able to attend in person this year, but they're all a bunch of weirdos, and I love them. Uh, it's such a great fest. What made this the perfect place?
Oh man, it's exactly what you just said. All these weirdos that we keep coming back to hanging out with every year after year after year. This is Fantastic Fest is my favorite film festival I've ever been to. And through my, career as a on-camera host, I've been able to go to a lot of them. But for me, it comes down to tone. It comes down to the people who are going to come to Fantastic Fest and what they're ready for and what they want to see there and what they're game for. And so I always think about those qualities when I think about the movies that I see here. And so I knew, I truly only submitted this to one place, and it was Fantastic Fest, because I would be honored to have the film play elsewhere. But in terms of where it mattered to me to have that world premiere and be accepted by that community, it was Fantastic Fest all the way. And if, as you know, because you've been there, but for anybody who's ever really been to an Alamo Draft House, The Shining is such a big part of the decor, whether it's the carpets, and now at the venue in Austin in South Lamar, they've installed this big, it's new since last year, this big Shining inspired entryway hallway. So you actually walk down the hallway and you see the projection of the Grady twin or girls, or you see Danny's tricycle is featured in theater 10, and so on. So that also was just kind of like the cherry on top.
I love that, because here's the thing: every time I go there, it's always such a unique experience. It's unlike any other festival. And you're right. It's because there's so many people who paid to be there. So they're going to have a good time. It's like when you go to other film festivals, and I'm not going to name names, a lot of it's industry people. They're there for the clout. They're there to see movies and do whatever. The people who go to Fantastic Fest are passionate about genre films. They love being there, and they paid a lot of money to be there. So they're going to have a good time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And in my experience with even with the recognizable high profile talent and filmmakers that come, there's everyone here is approachable. There's no like hiding famous people or whatever behind a curtain and then trotting them out and then they go to their VIP section. Like that's just not how Fantastic Fest is. And so that's also one of the things I love, whether you're there as a fan, whether you're there as press, whether you're there as a filmmaker, everybody is there for the same reasons, and everybody is approachable, and everyone is having a good time, like you said. So that to me makes this festival so incredibly special.
Yeah, the highball being down there doesn't hurt either.
Absolutely. I was about to say, and also the drinks and the karaoke rooms don't
Yes,
don't hurt either.
those absolutely do not hurt. Now, I always like to ask any guest that I have the pleasure of having in front of me two very important, very awesome questions that are very difficult. So I'm going to give you the first of those two, and I can't wait to hear your answer. The
Okay.
first is, you've had a really cool career. You've done a lot of cool stuff. who are some people that in your career you look up to and look as inspirations, whether that be as a filmmaker, as a pundit on these movie talk shows, or even as a person?
Well, the first person I always think of is Sandra Bullock. I love. It's funny, as much as I'm associated with horror. I love comedy so much. I would love to do more comedy. My dream is to be on a sitcom for 7 seasons. um, but uh, but Sandra Bullock is somebody who I've always admired because she was somebody who, when her career first began, she was very much typecast. She was this girl next door, America's sweetheart, and she's so good and authentically charming, and her I mean, she's an incredibly talented comedian and movie star, right? But the thing that impressed me about her was that she actually did form her own production company, and then she actually did start making movies. She Fortis Films is her company, and she produced Hope Floats and hired Forrest Whitaker to direct that movie, and she produced Practical Magic, and she's a co-producer on Miss Congeniality. Sandra Bullock is a formidable producer and businesswoman, on top of being charming and talented and all those things that we know and love about her when we think of her. So she's always been somebody who's inspired me. But as of recently, I've loved seeing so many actresses step behind the camera and direct. That inspires me like nobody's business. I mean, whether it is Olivia Wilde, or whether it's Regina King, or whether it's Eva Longoria, there are so many actresses who are directing, and it's not easy for anyone to get their movies made, but it's especially challenging, I would argue, for people who they go, oh, you're just an actress. What is it that you, meanwhile, what is it that you know, or what is it that you bring to the table? And so I just admire that so very much. And it's funny, I act in A Shining Example as well. And at first, when I was going to direct this, I was embarrassed. I was like, maybe I shouldn't act in this, because is that too much? Oh, I wrote it, and I co-wrote it, and I directed it, and I star in it, and I co-produced it. Like, does that seem sort of over the top? But then I thought about Taika Waititi and George Clooney and Ben Affleck and Robert Redford and all these historical, movie star dudes who do that all the time. And so I kind of was like, okay, this is something that's going on inside of me. This is not, and I need to catch this, and I need to sort of say, okay, forget that. I'm just going to do it. And I'm so glad I did, because as an actor, this part is something that it's exactly the type of role that I would love to play. So yeah, but Sandra Bullock and then these women who are stepping behind the camera, they just inspire me all the time.
Love that. I mean, look at this 2023, the highest grossing film of the year, directed by an actress, is Greta
Yes.
Gerwig. I
Oh my
mean,
gosh. And Margot Robbie,
630
this
million.
like incredible producer. Margot Robbie is such a good producer.
Yes.
And she's a great actress. Like, oh, Margot
Yeah.
inspires me, and Greta. They inspire me so very much.
Yeah. I'm very proud to say that we are big Barbie fans here at Film Snob. So we're
You have
big
good
Barbie fans.
taste.
Well, we're about to get to that, because the second question is the hardest question of the day, and it's, if you could only watch two movies for the rest of your life, what two would you pick and why? And you only get two. There's no cheating.
Oh my gosh.
Listen, this is
Okay.
the hardest question. Everybody from Michael Shannon all the way down to the smallest producer has struggled with this question that I have asked you, and it's a fun time.
Yeah, this is a fun time. Well, the first answer I will give you is my go-to answer for what's your favorite movie. And that's always such a hard question, but but recently I rewatched this movie in 3D with my dear friend Hector Navarro and his partner Abby Trott on his 3D TV, and it is The Wizard of Oz.
Ooh.
And I have to tell you, it's a movie that is truly a part of my DNA. Like, it is so. I think there is not a time in my life that I do not remember The Wizard of Oz. I grew up on that movie, but it is so incredibly thorough and well done. And every time I watch it, I catch a new joke, or I catch an inflection, or I appreciate the material that much more. I mean, whether, when you watch The Wizard of Oz when you're a kid versus when you're in your 20s versus when you're, more ingrained into a real adulthood, the messages and the meanings, they take so much more they become that much more relevant. But in addition to that, as a film person, it's just everything I love about movies. It's big, it's Hollywood, it's jokes, it's scary, it's a musical, and it's funny. I mean, it's so funny. So The Wizard of Oz is definitely going to be my first choice. Do you have thoughts on this?
I do. I love the grandiosity of the film. It's the 30s personified. The fact that Victor Fleming is able to make another film that's equally as iconic the same year,
Yeah.
1939. He makes Gone with the Wind the same year. That's Spielberg, Schindler's List, Jurassic Park levels crazy that he was able to do that. I love that film. Uh, it's one of the best films ever put to celluloid for a reason. It's just
Yeah.
like you said. It's funny. It's adorable. Everything about it is old Hollywood done at its highest peak, and that's a great choice, Clark. I love that choice.
Oh, thank you. So, okay, second choice. Now this one's harder because I'm kind of tied for two. Um, and gosh, this is just so hard. This is just so hard.
No,
I think I'm gonna choose The Exorcist. I'm gonna choose William Friedkin's The Exorcist. Just so you guys know, my runner-up was Jaws. Um, but I'm gonna choose The Exorcist because, I think it's just, forget about if it's scary or not. I think it is an incredible movie. And I think that it is an incredible drama. And I think that William Friedkin is a great director. I'm not breaking any news here, but The Exorcist is a movie that I think people remember for certain reasons: the special effects, the scares, the intensity, the sound design. But I also, at the end of the day, it is such a compelling family melodrama, and the acting in The Exorcist is so good. And it's a movie that I can watch, similar to The Wizard of Oz. Every time I watch it, I feel like I catch something new, or I feel like something resonates with me even more. And, similarly too, it's sort of like when you come to that movie, the themes that are present, again, yes, Reagan is, the possession is scary, but Karras's relationship with his mother is absolutely, the older I get, and you watch your maybe family members go through, experience dementia or die, or what the end of life looks like or can look like. And then, of course, you watch I watch Ellen Burstyn, and I watch her relationship to, not only her daughter, but her career. These are things that, I really, really relate to on such a human level. And then, of course, it is such an epic entry into genre storytelling, whether William Friedkin wanted to acknowledge or not that he made a horror movie, which, by the way, I think he knew that he made a horror movie, but nonetheless, the scares, the special effects, it is such a great example of what powerful genre storytelling could be. So yeah, I'll choose The Exorcist.
that's a great choice. I mean, that's in the running for possibly the greatest horror film ever made, and
Yeah.
it's obviously one of Friedkin's crowning achievements outside of maybe the French Connection. Great film choices. I personally love your picks, and I love how thorough your explanation was for why you pick those movies. Because often I'll get the answer and then they won't give me too much else. So I appreciate you give me something to work with there. That was awesome.
Oh my
Now
gosh, you're welcome.
now what was it like? You wrote this with Dylan Guerra,
Yes,
the film. What's it like with him? Because I know he's also in the film, right? He plays your
our May
Paul,
manager.
your
Yes.
manager. Yeah, he's in the film. It was nice to see his face.
So
Um,
Dylan, I should mention that the movie was made. Well, the shorts agreement with our unions is not struck. But I do want to just clarify that Dylan is in the WGA, and this movie was made before the strike, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we are coming to the conclusion of one of those. So,
Yes,
um,
congratulations on that to
oh my
them, you know.
gosh,
I'm glad
yeah,
to hear that.
absolutely. And then we got to get SAG next, and then and then we'll be good to go. But
Yeah.
yeah, Dylan I met through hosting some content on a Twitch channel called Fear HQ. But when so I only met him in 2020 for the first time, but our relationship, our bond just was so strong so quickly. And Dylan is an incredibly accomplished playwright based in New York City. He's also was a writer on the television show The Other Two, which is, if you've ever seen it, it is so funny. And it's got a great sense of humor, not only in terms of like the human relationships, but also when it comes to satirizing the entertainment industry. And so I had taken a pass at this script way before it was even, there was an opportunity to have it made. But then I put it aside because I booked a movie. And then when the opportunity for this came up, it was through Fear HQ. And so Dylan is on our team. And so I sent it to him and I said, hey, would you want to like do a pass at this and like write this with me? And he did. And what I did on my pass was sort of put the bones in and sort of put in those Shining references, and I knew what I wanted it to build to. But then my producer Buzz, who I've mentioned before, he made the joke, I mean, months before we got into production, that maybe with the husband who's a bit of a deadbeat, he was like, okay, and maybe he's like, I don't know, he's a DJ or something. And
The
I was
worst thing
like,
you can be. So yes.
exactly. And so Dylan went in, and gosh, he wrote so many great jokes, and he like and he fleshed certain things out. And then we sent the script back and forth, and then when the opportunity to have him cameo in the movie and play Aiden's manager came about, it was such a great opportunity. And there's a joke where Aiden's manager, for people, hopefully we'll be able to see it, in the next couple of months, but there's a joke where Aiden's manager kind of says, oh my God, I'm 29, as though that's so old.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it always gets a big laugh. But Dylan kind of pitched that like in the moment, and I was like, yes, do it. That's great.
That
Perfect.
joke hurt me. That joke hurt me.
It hurt me too. So
Yeah.
Dylan is, I hope that this is just the first of many, many opportunities that Dylan and I have to work together.
It's funny you mentioned the other two. A friend of mine was actually on last season. He was
Oh,
on the show
wow.
last season. He played the millionaire who turned
Oh,
into a billionaire.
cool. Oh man, that show is it's so good. It's
Yeah,
just so
it's really
good.
good. That skit made me laugh because I was like, "That's my buddy right there. He's doing absolute insanity on HBO."
I love it. I love
Good
it.
stuff. I love it. Now I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to elevator pitch your short.
Okay.
Why should people check out your short film?
You should check it out because you've likely never seen this content before. What I always tell people when I'm explaining it is, it's The Shining with a mom, and that usually paints the picture. So but to expand just a little bit, I have been hosting these shows like we talked about earlier, and as a result of that, you watch so many things, you start to notice subgenres. And I had noticed this subgenre of creatively frustrated dads who take that creative frustration out on their families, whether creatively frustrated writers. The Shining is a great example. Sinister is a good example. Even Adaptation is a good example. But I had never, not so much Charlie taking it out on his family, but I had never seen that with a mom. I had never seen a woman's creativity and the frustration that comes along with the creativity at the forefront. And so that is truly where the idea came from. But I'm really hopeful that when people watch it, they don't walk away going, oh yeah, it's just gender flipped Shining, because I think there's more to it than that. But if I do have to give people the elevator pitch and the log line, I just say it's The Shining with a mom.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. Yeah, your character reminds me a little bit of Jack Torrance, but also a little bit of Tony Collette from Hereditary. So,
Yes.
yes.
That was also one. And it's funny, that's an example that I give too when I think about, her career is not at the front, like the forefront of the story, but at least we do acknowledge we have a couple of scenes with her kind of dealing with her art and how her art is changing throughout that film. So yes, that's it. That's a huge influence. Great catch.
Thank you. I noticed things. Thanks for being with us. You're going to be joining all of your former colleagues because I interviewed a bunch of them a few years ago on our channel. So you're going to be joining them, but it's in a very different capacity. And we're so happy that you were able to make a film that you're proud of, that's actually really high quality, and that I can't wait for other people to see. Clarke, is there anything else you want to leave us with, or do you want to like pitch your social media so people can tell you what they think of the short film if they check it out?
Oh, sure. If you want to just, if people want to follow me on Instagram at Clarke Wolfe, Clarke with an E, Wolf with an E. I also have a Twitter/X account, which is the same handle. I just am not really on there anymore. But I will say that the publicist who set up our interview today, our conversation today, is always getting on me about not being on TikTok. So follow me on TikTok, please, to make Mandy happy. And that's at Clarke Wolfe TikTok.
Or we could just keep Mandy upset because I feel like she does her best work upset.
She does such good work just in general. And but yeah, I mean,
That's true.
she keeps having to twist my arm about the TikTok. I'll get there eventually.
Listen, when you get to, we're about the same age. When you get to our series in life, we really don't know what the hell we're doing on there.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, what? One more? Really?
Oh
This
God,
is so
really?
much work.
Yeah, I don't want to do
But
any of this.
I'm told it's very important.
I guess. Well, thank you so much, Clarke. If you wanted to go ahead and give us a follow, we'd love to have you. It's Films Not at Films Not Reviews. And if you guys aren't following Clarke, make sure you are. Make sure you're following us. We're happy to have you. Have a wonderful day, Clarke.
Thank you. You too.